Hey YouTube, it's Cynthia again with Healing Holden. Okay, so I have moved. Welcome to my new abode. I had to move to a brand new construction. I tried to move to another place where I thought it was going to be okay. If you recall in the last episode of Healing Holden, we had mold, toxic mold in the place we had moved to, and I had to get out and there was a place I wanted to move to that was an old house, but it had been completely gutted and filled with very expensive quartz counters and all kinds of stuff. The guy was a interior designer, I think, or no, a remodeler. So he had all these expensive things there, and he had it there for his business. So it was a business slash um, a place to show bathroom counters and kitchen um, counters and kitchen, options. And so it ended up being, it looked like it could be a great, place to live. But when I mold tested it, as clean as it looked, and the last apartment looked really good too. It had the scale goes to 20, like that's the limit. No, that's not even the limit. Like 3 is the limit of where you're supposed to be in a healthy home. But the actual scale stops measuring at 20. And it was, in the visual scale. And it was like 20.13. So I was like, okay, I clearly can't move there. And so instead of just keeping on going and testing over and over and over again, I just decided, you know what, let me see if I can find a brand new building. Because at least even if they do have, because this other building had like plumbing issues constantly. And it had also been hit by Hurricane Harvey. So it was kind of, just full of issues, even though it looked nice on the outside. So you can't ever judge a book by its cover, the saying. Um, Same thing with the second place, or the place I was going to move into. So I move in here. It's brand spanking new, like only 25% of this place is full. The rest is still being constructed. So as Dr. Osborne said in my recent phone appointment with him, or Zoom appointment with him, at least the mold hasn't had time to grow. So I've got a 6-month lease here to see what happens, because you never know. You just never know. And I don't know what kind of people are going to move in. I don't know. I had to kind of hug the ends of the nice neighborhood in town. At any rate, it seems to be good so far. My allergies have, like, I'm not waking up with the stuffy nose as much. My eyes are not bloodshot every day, and it seems to be helping. I did go to Dr. Osborne. My mother passed away, and so I got enough money to go and get the battery of tests that I had run on Holden finally run on me, which I've been wanting to do for a long, long time. And especially since in the last place, it felt like I was getting a blood clot in my foot. I was already experiencing pain and issues with my back, my injury in my neck and my back. And so I was having to go get my foot MRI'd and my leg. They only Doppler your leg, like your calf area or up to your groin, and they don't do your foot. And it felt like my toes were turning blue, and that's like COVID toes kind of thing. But I had already had COVID a long time ago, so this was seemed to be as a result of the mold. Anyway, and I just felt a lot of pain, like in my feet after I woke up in the morning. If I walked around, I got better. It seemed like it was like the blood flow was the issue. And then if I sat down for too long, my feet hurt again. So I was really worried about blood clotting. And I went to Dr. Osborne. I did a D-dimer, which is what they tell you to do after COVID, to see if you're clotting. And it turns out I'm not clotting. What I am experiencing is high red blood cell count. So the thickness of my blood is a factor. So that's what's causing the pain, is that my blood is too thick. And what we found out was that I am low in, let's see, selenium, vitamin E, omega, and that all of that makes your blood thick. So he's put me on a regimen with vitamin E and selenium and omega. And then I was also low in zinc and vitamin C. Sorry. So it's the mold toxicity. It antagonizes, or it's an immune system reaction, like even the allergy reaction to one of the molds that's not toxin is going to sensitize you. So I even had like new allergies. I did an acute allergy test, and that's like something that you react to within 1 to 3 hours. And then I did a sensitivities test, which is something you react to within 3 hours to, I think, 3 weeks. And it turned out that I didn't have these allergies before. I'd always had a milk allergy, and I still do. It's the lactalbumin, I think, the protein in milk that I have an allergy to, always have. And so we found out that I still have that as a sensitivity, and it's a moderate sensitivity, but I ended up having an allergy, interestingly enough, to all the things that I had been eating recently, like a lot, like cherries and blueberries and chicken and pork. I can't do butter, so I use bacon grease to, oil up a lot of things. So it turns out the mold actually will sensitize you, especially if it's a highly allergenic mold. It will make you allergic to a lot of the foods that you're eating. And thank God, I think this was just God being nice to me, because I was thinking to myself, oh God, I hope not. I hope I'm not allergic to chocolate. I hope I'm not allergic to coffee. I hope I'm not allergic to coconut milk, because I don't know if I'll be able to, what I'm going to replace milk with. And turns out, I don't do almond milk, and I don't do cashew milk anymore, just because it's almond milk. There's I just do so much almond already. Like I do a lot of almond flour. Oh, that too. I was hoping not to be allergic to almonds or sensitive. And thank God I wasn't, because I can replace the other stuff. Like it turns out I'm allergic to chicken. I'm allergic to pork, blueberries, and cherries, which is all stuff that I was eating right in this period of time. Just recently, like that was a thing that I'd been eating it for the last couple of years, the blueberries, because they're on the keto friendly fruit list, like low glycemic. And then cherries, just because I had a cherry kick. And then it turned out I'm also sensitive to lemons and peanuts, also another thing I had just kind of developed a love affair with. Thankfully, cauliflower was saved. So all the things I don't really have a replacement for, like I can use limes instead of lemons. I can use, I don't know, olive oil, avocado oil instead of bacon. I can use all kinds of oil. So anyway, it was interesting to find out that the mold will actually stir up. Essentially, what it does is it sensitizes you. So you're having an allergic reaction all the time to the environment. And then the foods you eat are also giving you that problem. So I think it's interesting, because it's kind of like a little bit like what I think is happening with vaccines, is that like with vaccines causing allergies, that when you get vaccinated, like Holden got allergies right after his first set of vaccines at 6 weeks. So I think what's happening is your immune system is being overstimulated, and then whatever you're eating is kind of attacked as well. Like whatever's common to you seems like, or like an overload, the body just hyper responds to it. So anyway, the first order of business after I had my appointment with Dr. Osborne was to discontinue anything with chicken. And thankfully, chicken eggs don't bother me, just chicken. So I can't do any more bone broth. Like that was my go-to, was bone broth from chicken bones, because God knows I ate a lot of chicken. It's cheap. So that's what I ate. And now I got some beef bones, and I had some lamb chops. So I saved the lamb bones. And anyway, I got some fish. So I'm going to save the fish bones, and I'm just going to have to go with something else. But it shouldn't be too bad, because I think, allergies can come and go. Some don't. Like I used to have a soy allergy, and I don't have it anymore, apparently. So that's cool. Like, I still have a dairy allergy, but I don't have a soy allergy anymore. So um, it seems to me, and I don't take this to the bank because I don't have an education on this, but it seems to me like it's your body just having enough of something, and you needing to like back off of it, because we're creatures of habit, and sometimes we get on a kick and then our body goes, that's enough of that. So anyway, I was experiencing something else that was interesting, at least to me. We got, when I got the D-dimer test, I also got some other labs that were like a cardiac health panel. And so I'm sorry, I wish I could share it here, but this is what I have. And so it's showing my numbers within range of being good. But Dr. Osborne said they actually aren't. The triglyceride and the homocysteine, well, actually, I'm sorry, those are okay. The lipoprotein markers, I think, yeah, the stuff in red right there, they're high. And he said that's just a genetic thing, and that there's no real getting away from that. But that's not the only important number. It's like, I'm going to use it in my layman's term, the way I understand it. And it's like, that is the mortar of whatever plaque can develop on your arteries. And that may be the reason I'm developing this little thing right there. But unless you're also having issues with like your glycemic control and your beta cell function, you're not going to have, like, if you can control the other factors, you can do fine with that. So it's like a composite. That number is not the only number that's important. So it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to develop anything, but it is implicated in atherosclerosis and heart disease, which both of my parents had. So, always good to keep an eye on that. And I do have some issues that make me, like, my omegas are low. We did an omega check, and my omega is not good. He says, oops, with all these tests, he's like, these tests act like the moderate is okay, and it's really not. That's very low. So my vitamin D and my omega were really low. And then what else? Oh yeah, I was also allergic to peas, which is also something I ate a lot. So interestingly enough, being allergic to peas doesn't mean you're allergic to green beans. So I don't know why. Anyway, so there was that. So we got a lot of things accomplished as far as that was concerned, just getting me to feel better. And then because I was feeling super tired, and I've sent off the heavy metals or the toxic metals. It's not just heavy metals, but also light metals and I guess moderate metals. I don't know what the middle part was. But I sent off my toxic metals panel and my halides test, which I thought I'd done a video on, but apparently I haven't. So I'll be doing a video on those when I get them back in, along with a nasal swab, because I feel like I have, I had always thought I had a sinus infection, a bacterial sinus infection, when I was younger, like 20 years ago. And I got tons of antibiotics every time I got, but it turned out it was allergies stuffing my nose. And then I would develop a fungal infection. So, or I think it's a fungal infection. So I'm sent off a nasal swab to see if I have a fungal infection in my nose, because it's just, I feel like that's what's happening. But anyway, okay, so I did a stool test, and I apparently have an infection, a gut infection of a particular fungus. Or no, I'm sorry, no funguses. That's good. No yeast, thank God, because I wanted to have a little wine every now and then, and I can. Yay! Because if I had to go on the yeast-free diet, I wouldn't be able to drink wine, and that would make me feel sad. But anyway, so I'm also low in zinc, which aids digestion, and the mold mycotoxins inhibit bifidobacterium. So bifidobacterium is one of the orchestra conductors of all the rest of the bacteria in the gut. And that synthesizes a lot of your neurotransmitters. And so between that and my choline deficiency, I was having a lot of memory issues and just brain fog, and then fatigue. So he did detect choline deficiency, and the choline deficiency came from the lack of good bacteria in my gut. The reason I had lack of good bacteria in my gut was partially the mold, because my immune system was busy dealing with the mold. And then also a couple of years ago, I think you remember, I don't know if you remember, if you watched the video, I had 5 rounds of antibiotics for a broken tooth that they didn't see. And so they just left a rotting tooth in my head for 2 months and gave me 5 rounds of antibiotics. So this particular infection that I have is typical of over use of antibiotics. And then I had all these, like, several different good bacteria just super low in my diet. So I've been given a bunch of probiotics, and what he says is that between that and I've been given a vitamin C flush, we should be able to take care of it. But this infection and the lack of good bacteria can cause a choline deficiency. And then when I started looking deeply at choline, I found that choline is actually implicated in Alzheimer's disease. It can cause memory issues. It can cause anxiety, which I do definitely feel like I am anxious a lot. So that calmed me down, because I was like, okay, that's what's going on. I know that that's the issue. So anyway, I wanted to catch you up on that stuff. I also had issues with, I'm going to have to plug this computer in. Always there's something I have to go off camera for. Maybe someone won't contact me this time. Maybe. Anyway, so I did an adrenal stress test too. And the adrenal stress test is like a spit test. Like, you have to keep a piece of, like, this rolled up cotton in your mouth until you saturate it. And then you put it in a vial, and then you do it several times during the day. So it can kind of take account of your hormone level, your cortisol and your adrenaline. And what the doctor said, and I was having a lot of difficulty getting up in the morning. I even had to, my work was having me come in 1 day a week to a relatively far place from where I was, which was an hour drive. So, I mean, I could make it if I wasn't sick, but I was getting so drowsy on the road that I was like, this is kind of dangerous. Can I just work from home? So they said yes. But because of the choline deficiency, I was having a lot of fatigue. In addition to, like, the thick blood, like, just all of it all together was like a perfect storm. So, and now I'm having a memory issue. I can't figure out what I was going to tell you with that. But at any rate, it's very much a player in Alzheimer's. This choline deficiency is something that's relatively new. So I would highly recommend, I know there's a lot of, like, new drugs coming out. I think there's one in particular for Alzheimer's, but since it's so common, I think it'd be really good for people to check and see if their choline levels are low. And then kind of reverse engineer it, because if the choline levels are low, yes, you can supplement with it, which I am doing, but you also need to understand that that's coming from a gut dysbiosis. And so that's the other step that you need to take, so you don't supplement forever or think that changing your diet is necessarily going to work, because though it may, and you definitely want to feed the good bacteria. So that's another reason to have dietary changes, because if you feed the bad bacteria or yeast in your diet and you don't feed the good stuff, then you are going to have more issues. But you also may need to kill the bad stuff and replenish the good stuff. So it's a multi-pronged approach. So anyway, I think for people with Alzheimer's, that's a big deal. Like checking into the choline deficiency, because if you keep having that, it's going to continue to get worse. I am assuming it can be reversed. I mean, from what I've seen with Holden, it can. I know when you're older, that's a little harder. Maybe your brain's less plastic. I don't know, but I think it's worth looking into. The other thing is I had high secretory IgA in my stool test. And what that alludes to is that I was having a reaction because I was eating stuff I was allergic to. So I was having a secretory IgA that was high. Oh yeah, sorry, my adrenals. So I have to look into why this is, but apparently I was also very fatigued. Some of the markers were the spit test. Ooh, I had wine. Sorry, guys. In the spit test, what Dr. Osborne was saying, I was telling somebody, they were talking about loving early mornings. And I'm like, no, I don't love early mornings. And she was saying, oh, well, yeah, that she loves them. And I was saying it because it just had the hardest time getting up in the morning and even going to sleep at night. And that was shown to me by Dr. Osborne. He's like, okay, if you look at this test result in the adrenal stress test, you're at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're supposed to be up here. Like this is where everybody else is, up at the top of the graph. And then you kind of do a slow downward, kind of an L shape. Like you go down and then across and then down again. At midnight, I was just down and just kind of staying there with maybe a little blip and then back down again. So it was obvious that, what I was feeling was charted and shown to be really as a result of my adrenals just being taxed. And that could be from just years and years of stress. There may be some other issues. We won't know until we get the metals test and the halides test back, because one of the bad things in the apartment I was in before was that they were chlorinated in the water very heavily. And you could tell, like you could smell the chlorine in the dishwater, in the bath water. And I didn't have a filter on the whole system, just on my drinking water. So there's, you don't know what leaches in through your skin that might be affecting the halides group, might be affecting your iodine, because chlorine will antagonize iodine, which has a cascade effect across your hormones. So that might affect cortisol. I don't know yet. So I will keep you posted on the metals test, the halides test. I also took a mycotoxins test here. I was kind of praying about, should I mold test this place? Because a friend of mine was like, well, I don't know that a new place is necessarily going to guarantee you not having mold, because my friend is a construction guy and he was working on a new apartment complex and there was a heavy rain. And when they got back to the site, things were starting to mold, the wood beams and everything. And the owner decided not to treat the wood and just to continue building. So that building, just like if you put, one rotten apple spoils the bunch, if you have wooden structures underneath good structures, it's eventually going to spread to the rest. So there's no telling that that's not going to happen here. But I went ahead and did a mycotoxin test on myself, just like I did with Holden, just to see, because a mycotoxin test is a urine test that tests what's happening right now. So it's whatever you're exposed to immediately, and that'll tell me whether or not I'm being exposed to something here. Thankfully, that's really useful because I don't, work outside of the house, except, I did go in yesterday. And I'm not in my car much because I work from the house. Dr. Osborne was saying that he had an interesting case with a woman who had mold toxicity, but it wasn't in her house. But she worked out of her car primarily. She was just like a road warrior. So it turned out her car was full of mold. And so they had to, I don't know what they did, but they had to deal with that. So it's always a surprise, the things that you're being affected by. So keep your options open, keep your mind open, and kind of pay attention to what you're doing. I wish I'd been, it's funny. I was paying attention to what I was eating. I could tell that after I ate, I didn't feel well, but I didn't feel like I could just stop eating. I wish that I was that kind of person, but I like food. So let's see, you can see my jugular vein. I got to look at it. I've been trying to get an ultrasound on it for years, and it seems like every time I go, the technician, thinks I need a different place to go to. Something goes wrong. So I got to get it done again. So who knows what's happening there. But anyway, my blood's not thin enough yet. I just started my regimen, guys. Hopefully it'll be better soon. But that's all I have for you today. Feel free to contact me with any questions. One big thing I wanted to let you know as far as Holden is concerned, because this channel is called Healing Holden and it's about him, but I'm telling you this mold illness stuff in case you or your family members with autism are also having it, because he's actually low in choline as well, which again, like I said, it's a mold issue and his dad is still in mold. But I had been asking Holden if he wanted to just come stay with me, and I asked his dad, and his dad said he was going to leave it up to Holden. So anyway, it's apparent he's not going to come here because he's sort of being manipulated there. But Dr. Osborne, this is the first time I've heard of this. He told me about this place called High Tech Air Solutions. So you can go to High Tech so airsolutions.com, and they have something called an air reactor. Now, Dr. Osborne says he has 2 in his home, but it's basically for if you want to clear the air of a lot of different mold toxins, but also formaldehyde and other toxins. The best answer for mold is to move from where you are, or completely gut it and rebuild. But another option, if you can't move, let's say you're in a lease and you're in the middle, you need to get well now, like I was. This is, and then like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get this thing called an air reactor, and it cleans the air. And he says he has 2 in his place. I think if I buy 1, it's like $1,600. He said, like if it's discounted. So I don't know what I'm looking into, but I got to do something for Holden because his, poor baby, he was with me the whole month of June and he was so anxious. So I could see like the choline deficiency in him, making him super anxious, and me too. He was anxious and it was feeding my anxiety. So I'm really grateful to have done all these labs and know what I was going through and have a path forward. Because I've been put on a couple of different protocols, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, all these protocols that doctors give, they're usually like the same protocol for everybody. And that's the same way, typical Western allopathic medicine does. But these in functional medicine, you get like custom protocols for yourself. So I've got, my protocol is different from Holden's protocol, is different from somebody else's protocol. So I highly recommend going to a functional medicine doctor. I think Dr. Osborne's great. But certainly the other, functional medicine doctors, go to someone you're comfortable with. It's expensive, but you get well and you get answers and you get a path forward. So I was going to regular doctors for my foot and like trying to tell them there was a problem, and they were like, it's just totally stumped. So I was happy to finally get an answer and feel like I was kind of on my way to doing better. And I'm already feeling better. Like just giving up the food that I gave up, and even just taking the adrenal supplements. And this morning I felt more energy than I felt in a while. Still not enough, but certainly I was like, oh, okay, this is working, and also this is what I've been, doing wrong. So I hope that helps you guys. Please like, please share, please subscribe. And until next time, this is Cynthia with Healing Holden with a glass of wine under her belt. Hopefully it made a lot of sense. Ciao.